Hey there, podcast listeners. Before we dive into the episode, I wanted to share with you an easy way for you to be featured as well. I personally believe that business ownership is a thankless job, and that small and medium-sized businesses don't get the press that they deserve. So back in March of 2023, I launched Ignite Business Insider, a digital magazine that lets local and small businesses share their story for free. Now, I've had many people question the word free. So directly from me, I wanted to let you know, yes, this is completely free, no strings attached. I launched Ignite Business Insider with the goal of sharing the stories of 1 million local and small businesses. Now, I'm nowhere near that goal, so I truly hope you'll take a few minutes and share your business's story on Ignite. I believe that every business has a story to tell, and I simply want to help share yours. So click the Ignite link in the description and share your story. You never know where it will lead.
Design Talk Live is brought to you by Allison Eden Studios. Design custom stained glass, mirror, and mosaic tiles for hospitality, commercial and residential design projects. Explore the limitless possibilities with Allison's wallpaper, fabric options, and custom accessories. To learn more, click the link in the description below. This episode is also brought to you by the Capital One Venture Card. Earn unlimited 1.25 times miles with 0 annual fee. Earn miles on every purchase, plus additional miles on hotels and rental cars booked through Capital One Travel. Apply online for Venture One by clicking the link below. This episode is also brought to you by Join InCrowd Digital Contact Cards. Create your free contact card in under a minute and start making more friends, growing your network, and staying connected. Join the InCrowd today. This episode was also made possible through the generous support of Serena Martin and the 24/7 Creative Agency. Whether you are an individual or a company, we deliver creative marketing strategies 24/7 in order to connect, partner, and develop exceptional brand experiences. To learn more, click the link below. Discover their unique brand marketing solutions 24/7.
At the root of all experiences, I think empathy trumps all. So an empathetic approach to how we approach space, how we use products, how we live is really through the empathetic approach, which is the basis of design thinking. All design thinking is a methodology in which we watch, we observe, and we listen, and then we take all of that stuff and put it into practice from what we've gathered. So I think that's probably the best approach to product development, developing space, developing experiences, and also through developing innovation.
From Spotify, Design Talk Live Studios, Joseph Haecker Inc., and the Live Broadcast Network, this is the Design Talk Live podcast, the podcast that explores the topics and conversations that matter to the design community. Here's your host, Joseph Haecker.
Hey, design peeps. I am super excited about our guest today on the talk show. Now, Chris has an incredible background in the design community. Former chief creative officer for Walker Zanger, Tarkett North America, and then within the design space, he's with Hero Flooring, serves on the board of directors, and I'll let him get into more of those details. But Chris, we're going to end up talking about design thinking, which is, we were already kind of just kind of going off on the conversation off air. So, Chris, can you share with our listeners just a little bit about you and kind of your background?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Joseph, thank you so much for having me. This is really a very nice treat for me to talk to you, especially because I find you so interesting and we have so many things in common. So I hope this will be a lot of fun. I'm sure it will be. My background, I came into design out of need because I grew up in a family where we all had to pay for ourselves to go to school. And I did design to pay for college. So I got in through visual merchandising and store design when I was, at 18 years old. And then that paid for my schooling. I studied math at one college. I studied communications at another college. But the thing that really impacted me the most was I spent 2 years in an all-deaf university as one of 10 hearing people. So that sort of informed, I think, to a great deal, my design journey and sort of my path through life was being this observer and learning how to communicate and to create, how to communicate and create through using all sorts of ways that I don't think we lean into as much. So my very, very first design job when I moved to New York was as a librarian for the third largest architecture firm in North America. And back then, it was something that was seen as, the entry-level position. And through that position, myself and other librarians banded together at commercial architecture firms, and we created something called the Association of Resource Specialists, because we knew we were the keepers of all of these products and had to really sort of know everything about them, their application, and how to guide designers to the right materials. So I really, really got into all sorts of materials from, be it building materials to textiles to carpet, you name it. And that was truly my passion for a first part of my career. And then I got into manufacturing and spent a lot of my time with flooring manufacturers, with Interface, Mohawk, and then with Tarkett. And as my resume built and my skill sets built, I ended up being chief creative officer. So I oversaw product development, digital development, and branding and marketing, and had large teams of people and working under me, and had to own a bottom line for $1 billion company in terms of, profit and loss for what we were putting out into the market. And, that was a huge responsibility, which I really, really enjoyed. I also missed being on the East Coast where I was born and bred. So I decided to part ways and move. I live in a beautiful space in Connecticut, where Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New York share a border. We're in the mountains. I can't see neighbors on all four sides. It's very peaceful. And I now sit as a board of director for two companies, Momentum Textiles and Wall Coverings, which is the largest commercial textile and wall covering company in North America. And then Kiro Flooring, which is, I think, one of the most innovative companies I've ever had the pleasure to work with. I also have the luxury and pleasure of designing carpet and broadloom carpet tile for them. So still keep my hands in product development and get to work with these two great companies and, being successful. So that's sort of how I got into the industry. Was that?
Yeah, no, that was amazing. The experience of being one of only 10 students in a deaf school, that from a design perspective, and we'll get into the design thinking and how that played in, but wow, what an opportunity. This will sound weird, but other than design stuff that I post on social media, you won't find much personal posting from me. The only other posting is cooking. And the funny part about that is I lost my taste and smell in April of 2021 due to COVID, but that hasn't prevented me from, and in fact, now when I cook, I'm cooking for texture.
Mhm.
and just my memory of like how things should interplay. So it's interesting. You take away a sense, and it really pushes you into a different realm.
Yeah, no, that was exactly my experience, and the methodology. So NTID, which is National Technical Institute for the Deaf, which is part of RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, back in the day taught something called total communication. So it's not just signing, sign language as we know it. It is me reading your entire body and your facial expressions and what you're trying to communicate. So it's not a word, sign language isn't a word for word of English or any language for that matter. It's you really conveying a concept. Well, isn't that what we do in design? We're trying to tell a story through space, through physical objects, through any number of different things that are going to impact the built environment. And I think that experience for 2 years really gave me insight on how to read people. I will tell you, lip reading is a skill everyone should invest in, especially in corporate America and meetings. I can also tell you that when my teams and I would have to go into big presentations, I did teach them some signs so we could communicate during the meeting without other folks knowing. So we had a benefit to that. It's truly something that I think it's a language everyone should learn.
Yeah.
And you've seen over the last few years, it's become more and more prevalent, right? You see the person and, at concerts, at government presentations. So I'm happy to see that.
Yeah.
Have you still lost your sense of smell and taste? Has it come back?
I can't taste or smell. I had in January for half of a day, I got I didn't even realize it, so it might have been the whole day. But I got my taste and smell back for half of a day. And what was funny was I when I realized that I could smell, I went around smelling everything, and my coffee smelled like coffee again, and things smelled the way they were supposed to. And what was funny was there are a few things that I went to like give it a smell, and my brain didn't know what it was, so it just came up blank, and I was like, this should smell. About a month or so ago, I was out with friends. We were at Home Depot, and they had the cinnamon sticks. They had this had to be in around October, so like the cinnamon witch broom and all this stuff. That should have been very strong. I smelled it, and I was like, zero. Not and like smelling a glass of water, not even water. Yeah. And I took it over to my friends. I was like, either these are really bad cinnamon products, or, do they smell? And they're like, oh yeah, these smell strong. So I was like, okay, because I can't gauge how bad my smell is just not there. So yeah, it was a good confirmation there. You saw their reaction where they're like, oh, like the cinnamon burnt their nose. I get nothing. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Oh man.
On the related note to that, a lot of my friends think I should do a cooking show, because the way that I describe the food that I make and the inspirations and and we're get a little off track, but I made recently, and I do little like dinners for my building to use them as test subjects. But sure. I have sun brewed Mandarin tea. And I thought, how great would this be if instead of boiling ramen in just the broth, what if I boiled it in the Mandarin tea? I roasted jalapenos and chicken, and I did a spicy Mandarin chicken ramen egg roll. And for the sweet and sour, I did Jack Daniel's honey whiskey, sweet and sour. And so you took the egg roll, you put a roasted jalapeno on it, you drizzled the sweet and sour, that honey whiskey sweet and sour on it, you took a bite, and then you did a broth shooter.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So now I couldn't taste any of it, but everybody loved it.
Listen, after we get off this podcast, I'm flying over because I love to cook, and I think we have to have a cooking date.
Yeah. You'll see some of my videos on social media, and it's just, I don't know, but like anytime I cook it, people are like, "Oh my God!" Like Thanksgiving, I did a Thanksgiving fried rice, and this guy who I didn't even know was like piling. He was like, "I'm on my second plate." So in your journey, great background and great wow. I loved the research group because I'm a big history buff. I'm a big study of business models. So and I've been since 2012, 1 foot in design, 1 foot firmly in design, the other foot firmly in tech. And on the tech side, I don't think people look at business models enough, and get why do things work. So, how unique that that you honed in on the research side of things, because therein lies the history. So we don't have to repeat things; we could build.
Yeah. So all right. So when I had a great. I loved everybody who I've worked with on my resume. You know, I don't have anything bad to say about anybody. I will tell you, when I worked with Charquette, they did 2 things for me in my career, which I'm forever grateful. They sent me to the Paris School of Architecture to get a mini degree in design thinking. I had already been exposed to it previously, but this was like, a very, very intense course. And then in addition to that, they also sent me to the London School of Business to get a certification in innovation, whatever that means, right? But at the core of it, right, you have to balance it with the balance sheet. So you have to have a business model. I had a CEO who came to us from the steel industry. So, you would say, "Oh dear God, that had to be hard," right? Creatives working with someone coming from the steel industry probably had the biggest influence on me as a leader and as a business person, because he was like, in order for innovation to truly listen, we can all have innovation, but if you can't make a profit of it and it can't live, what have you created? He was like, you just have a fabulous idea. Right. So, and that allowed me to really push my team in a way that for creatives, is typically icky and uncomfortable, on how to build something that we also know that we can return a profit on. Right. So if you're given this opportunity and in a timeline that we can all agree upon, and the cost and being able to fail during the process, you have to build in failure, right? I hate to say it, but as Americans, we're like, "Oh no, get it right the first time, move on to the next thing, and then create this thing." And because I know you've spent some time with the folks at IDEO, iteration and fine tuning and reworking your idea to keep checking in on it really will get you a much better end product. So those experiences allowed me to create something that was very unique in the industry, called Designer on Demand, right? We were a flooring company, but when we did this, I worked with a group of Italian ethnographers who came over, and we shadowed firms from Gensler to medium-sized firms to a guy who worked out of his house in Vermont. And they allowed us to shadow everybody and just document. All we did was document for months, all of, how people worked. And do you know what we found out? That most designers don't create from 8 till 5. They're in meetings. They're doing emails. They have team meetings. They have client meetings. They're getting presented to by manufacturers. We found that most of the design work happened after 5 o'clock. From 5 to 11. And what happens from 5 to 11? Sales reps are off to their families doing their things. Customer service of manufacturers, they've gone home, right? So how do these people who are working on billable hours get service? Well, we created something called Designer on Demand, and we married that with what do design students need? They need experience and money. When you're in school, what do you need? You need experience and money. So we had design students from all across America to hit all time zones, brought them in, and they would get paid per project, per call. But if you went online to Tarkett, from 8 a.m. until midnight, Monday through Friday, you could have a live person who knew about the products, could do layouts for you, could get you specifications, and they could help you. And business through that model grew about 33%.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was just because we looked and listened, right? And we understood what was really happening. Previously, we all made stuff up, right?
I heard this story a long time ago. This Navy captain, he goes to some guy, and he says, "Hey, do you have ideas on how we could run the ship better?" And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, definitely, I definitely do." And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to promote you to ship captain." And I forget the backstory of why, but I'm going to promote you. And the guy was like, "Yeah, man, I'm rearing to go." And he's like, "So here's the condition: can't change anything for a year." And the guy's like, "What? But I've got all these ideas, and we can solve all the problems, and blah 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 blah." And he's like, "That's the condition. I'll promote you. Can't change anything for a year." So the guy waits an entire year, and all of those ideas that he had were useless. Turns out that when he was forced to listen and just observe, the crew got to know him better. They liked him better. He was there just supporting them. He wasn't trying to change anything. And with enough time, he understood the needs of everybody and then could actually implement real change. And I thought, what a great story.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's design thinking in a nutshell, right? Because through those changes, what you're going to see is you're not going to see you'll see a growth curve that goes straight up versus at a slow and steady growth, and there's value in that. Now, like I said, not everything has to be that. I know you've gotten a little bit of familiar with Hero. Why do I like Hero so much? Because they are nimble, and I think nimble is a quality that a lot of companies can't say they are. Right? It's too hard to change on a dime. I don't know if you saw recently over the past couple months. Gensler, for example, put their stake in the sand for sustainability and this embodied carbon on 12 different categories of building products, one of them being carpet tile. A lot of people are scrambling now on how they're going to meet this. And we're talking major companies are struggling with how they're going to meet this if they want to continue to do business with someone they've been doing business for years. Reed Palmer, who's the CEO, has chatted with them. He's come back, and within 2 weeks, he's going to have books on the shelves, especially for Gensler, that meet all of their criteria. I can tell you that's unprecedented, having worked for several large manufacturing organizations. So, my perfect goal when I was working at major companies was to have a smaller company within it that could be nimble and could be quick. I think that's a great idea. If and any of your, well, and you've done manufacturing too, right? How can you turn things out that don't take 2 years to develop, lots of R&D costs, all of that good stuff, and how can you really build a system where you can turn things on a dime and respond to customers? It's sort of the expectation in the world we live in today, especially driven through technology and experiences. I want to press a button, I want it now. Well, that same behavior holds true for when you want a product. You have the same, literal same expectations. So if companies can learn how to do that, they're going to be well ahead of the game. And that's why I like Hero.
Well, and I think your background, you touched on a few different industries and drew from different spaces. I think that that the tech industry, the manufacturing industry, the design industry, it's so vital to not. I say that I don't live in a house full of mirrors. I intentionally go into unfamiliar territory to go learn and draw from other industries in order to bring things back to my core industry. We do need to take a quick commercial break, and when we get back, I do want to dive in because we've kind of started to touch on the design thinking, and I want to dive in on the design thinking when we come right back.
Awesome.
You could go to any tile store and buy a white or a beige tile any time of day. But we want to create something fun and unique for the client. At Allison Eden Studios, we custom create, design, and manufacture glass mosaic tiles. It was always clear to me that I would own my own business because I was unemployable. I actually love doing my own thing. I really didn't want to listen or conform to what I was told to do. I run the production floor, and my husband, Gary, does all the business.
Business, financial, accounting, social media.
I get to do the fun stuff.
She started off with 2 employees.
And now we're shipping to
Dubai, Macau, Jamaica.
all over the world.
We use the ink card every single day. We order all sorts of supplies, office supplies, shipping supplies. I really love the flexibility of the rewards points. We could redeem them for gift cards for our clients or for our employees.
Or for me.
Allison is the one responsible for this artwork. It's really a reflection of her creativity, harnessing it all, putting it together, making it into a business. That's what we do every day.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm with Chris Stulpin. I think you guys have picked up. There's just so much information in just that first part of the episode. And now we're going to dive in on the design thinking aspect, and I know that this is going to be a blast because I've got some unique experience in this space, and Chris, you definitely do. So, as far as design thinking, can you recap for our listeners, kind of in your words, what is design thinking?
Design thinking is a methodology that uses empathy as its core to understanding what problem needs to be solved, and really using observation, listening, and iteration of and hearing lots of different voices, and then really trying to have a judgment-free zone where you can just fully ideate and come up with good ideas, bad ideas, and put them all up on a wall, and then try to see what those relationships are. And then you create these clusters, and then you start to look at things a lot differently, and you defined what is the real problem we're trying to solve. For example, does the world need another chandelier? I don't know. There's probably lots of chandeliers out there, right? That was your industry. From what we were talking, and I'm fascinated about lighting too, because there's lots of innovation in there. But how can we think about things different than developing carpet, developing textiles, or whatever it is, or even space, and how can we do rapid prototyping, come up with something? Please bleep me if you need to. A key ingredient to design thinking is something known as a shitty first draft.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Typically,
completely agree.
We're on such tight time frames and schedules that we don't have time to even look at a shitty first draft, step away from it, bring others in, reframe it, and then iterate and iterate and iterate. And so there's about 5 steps through design thinking process, and it's rapid prototyping, all of that good stuff. And that's what design thinking is in a nutshell. Now, some can use it to develop. I've seen HR departments use design thinking as a means to create a better culture within an organization. I've seen product developers do it for innovation. I've seen tech people use it. It's why we have Uber. It's why we have a lot of technological innovation was born out of design thinking process.
So I had, I won't say the lighting company, but I was working for a lighting company. I heard yelling in the factory, in the warehouse. I go out and I look, and I won't identify his role, but this person was yelling at these other people, and just going off on him. And I'm standing there, and I'm like, what is he yelling about? And I realized we had the wrong part, and we had messed up the design. And so I interrupted, and I was like, oh, okay. So first of all, we already have the new part coming. This fixture was due to be on a truck that day and shipped out. So when we had got it in, we got all the parts in, we mocked it up. We made custom light fixtures. So but the nature of what we did, this was the first time we did this, So I was like, look, we're getting this on the truck. We've got the replacement parts. We're going to ship those. They're going to come in. We're going to test them. We mocked up a section so that we can test it, and then we're going to ship this out. The installer knows about it, so we're good. I was like, but here's the thing, and I just want to set a precedence going forward from here on out. I don't care that we get plan A wrong. I don't care that we get plan B and C wrong. It scares the shit out of me if we don't have a plan F, G, X, Y, and Z. Like, but when we get there, we can even get into double letters. Like we could, but like, don't expect us to get plan A right every time. That's not even the goal. So yeah,
you're absolutely right. Hey, Joseph, have you, so as I mentioned, between going to Paris Design School, London Business, that was wonderful. But I was also exposed to something that was entirely fascinating to me, because, the idea of play, right? Especially for creatives. It's people designing space, it's people like you and me who have developed products or led teams that develop product. Play can really unleash things that you've never, ever even hoped to, because you're working with a different part of your mind, right? You're tapping into it. Have you ever, I had the opportunity to study this, was Lego has something called Serious Play. And it's a special set of Legos that they put in front of you, and you have something like 5 minutes to take the Legos, and only using Legos, create something that can communicate a concept, like an entire world, through building whatever it is that you're trying to build. It was one of the most exhilarating experiences that I ever had. It's super, super hard, but it tapped into when I was one of 10 people in a sea of 2,000 deaf people, right? It was very like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? It's very much that experience. So if you or your listeners have never looked into Lego Serious Play, highly recommend it. And we brought these in one of my jobs, and I'd get either Chinese food, pizza, whatever it is, and we'd have big team lunches, and we would play with Legos, and we would challenge each other on trying who can create the most complex idea in Legos and have it be understood.
Why? Let's do a podcast a while ago, and the entire topic was think like a child. And nice. When you were kids, we figured things out. Like you played and you experimented and you failed and you tried again, and it was fun, and it was we should I think more often think like a child. Have fun. We grew up and we started to learn that failure was bad and you didn't want to fail, and then you took jobs, and you can't really fail at work. So, and now we're like deathly afraid of failing. Failing's awesome. On another podcast of mine, I had Kathy Ireland on, and she said, and I love this about Kathy. Kathy's amazing. If you ever get a chance, Kathy is a great, just a awesome human being, just
very
super awesome. Yeah. She said that she encourages her team to epically fail, not just kind of fail or mess up, but like epically fail. If they're not epically failing, then they're not really testing the boundaries.
No, how genius though, good for her, and wildly successful at what she's doing. I think throughout my career, you can pinpoint moments that were aha moments for you, throughout your career that then took you either in a different direction or helped lift you up. And two that come to mind was when I first discovered a company called Trend Union. I don't know if you know Trend Union. Trend Union is Lee Edelcourt and Philip Famano, and they, we talk about trends when it's sort of a dirty word. They don't develop trends like, the new Pantone color is peachy fizz or what things like that. What they're developing, they're hired by like BMW to figure out what space is going to be required 10 years from now for automotive. That's the type of trends that they're doing. And they come to New York maybe twice a year, and they do one on fashion and then one on interiors. But what their methodology, again, it has to do with observing human behavior and all of those things around us. And they do a connect the dot things, right? So I'll give you, for example, and it'll be very, very simplistic. They saw the disappearance of the honeybee population, right? Do you remember when that was happening? And they took that and they made these other connections. So when they were talking to people like, let's say, beauty and health products, subconsciously, the public buying those types of products were going to want things that were viscousy and had a slight tackiness to it, like honey would, because in the subconscious, we were aware that bees were disappearing from the population, which meant that we might fear that we wouldn't have access to honey, which meant we had this human nature thing to crave those things that we can't have, right? And they can draw lines to how this came through to product development. And, and then we saw the onset of things in honeycomb shapes that showed up in product development and packaging. Fascinating. And that sort of opened up my mind during my journey throughout my career. And then the other group that I met was a company that literally just rebranded called Reshift. And they used to be known as the Design Thinkers of North America. and they work with people like Coca-Cola and all the Fortune 100. And they're even shying away from the term design thinking, but really looking at this methodology of observation and failure, and really, are we asking the right questions and coming up with the right definition of what we're trying to answer?
I say this all the time, and again, 1 foot in design, 1 foot in tech, and in tech, in both. As humans, we are designed to look outward. And now I had Chris Widener on a podcast a couple of years ago. He was kind of trained under Zig Ziglar, and so Chris said, and I don't think I'll ever forget this. He said, "We judge others on their actions, and we judge ourselves on our intentions." And wow. From that, I first of all, like, kind of let that soak in. That's pretty amazing, because all you can see of the other person is their action. You can't read their mind, so you don't know what they intended to do. If they, and then on our end, we're just stuck in our head, so we can't really see what we look like. We think, we were thinking all these things. I wanted to be there on time. I was going to pick that up. I was going to hold the door. I was going to do all these things, but nobody knows that part of us. So, in design, and just and I will do a little caveat. I believe that design is problem solving. Mm-hmm. So whatever niche or whatever vertical of design you're in, you're solving a problem. But we're designed to look outward. So we tend to think, if you're a marketer, you think, let me show you all my product. If you're a founder, you're like, let me get into the mechanics. Let me tell you why this works so well, and blah, blah, blah. We forget to look from the other side of the consumer and how they're going to use it, or if they're going to use it at all, or how this impacts their life. And it's very hard as humans to be reflective. And so it's anytime design can get outside of your head and play, fail, ask questions, be good listeners, just be good observers, is fundamental to innovation.
All right. Can we have an honest conversation right now? Just you and me. No one's listening, right? It's just you and me. You sort of struck a chord with me because, especially during the pandemic, so many people, brands, design firms, to stay relevant during the pandemic, used social channels creating content and thought pieces. Am I wrong? Right?
Yeah.
Where are the pieces that said, you know what, we were wrong? Or looking back on pieces that they wrote 2 years ago and that say, wow, we totally missed the mark. You're absolutely right. We don't reflect. We're just forced to put out all of these things. So we're creating this image of like, oh yeah, no, here's our latest thought piece on fill in the blank. It could be on anything. And it drives me bonkers because, especially in design, we're smarter and we're better than that. And we should know better. And we should let people know that we are an organic learning organization that must look back and say, you know what, we got this right, but here's what we learned from our assumptions. You don't see a lot of that thoughtfulness. And I think that's a huge opportunity as an industry that we could do better.
Yeah. Another one that you hear from me all the time, and I've got a couple of books that I include this in. A big one for me is you don't know what you don't know. And so getting exposed to as many things as possible It's unfortunate that in design, it's unfortunate that you found that designers tended to be, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. They're just inundated with it's kind of like doctors. Doctors, there was a study that said that doctors spend about 12 minutes a day talking to a patient. They spend the rest of the day doing paperwork. That's great. Sad, and that needs to be changed because you've missed the boat. Like you just have inundated people with the things that don't matter, and will quickly lose track of the goal. Which is also why I think brands should be getting in front of design firms in more creative ways. Now, I'll tell you, I've had sales reps, for most of my career, when they popped in on a design firm, then the design firm's like, oh, here's another project, or hey, can you get us a quote on this spec, or and really we've got to come up with like cooler ways, which is kind of a little nod to Hero. I love the innovation, the collaboration. What is that? What is that?
In my hand. These are Hero brand cereals. These are Hero Charms. So if you order samples, they most likely will come in something like this that will have your carpet samples in them. They'll have, you remember when cereal boxes had treats or like surprises in them? There's surprises in this box. I'll have to post photos onto the website, but because this is audio only. But what Chris was holding up was a cereal box that it looks like a cereal box. It says Hero Charms across it. It's got is that a bear or a chipmunk? It's an animal superhero. The ingredients are the specifications. And the goal is to, if you were lucky enough to say, oh, we want to see your product, we want to delight you. We don't want to just show up in a brown bag or something like that. We want to bring joy to your life. And I can't tell you how many people love something as silly as this because it just stops you for a second and it makes you smile.
Yeah.
And it's a way as a brand to say, hey, I see you. I know from 8 to 5 what you're doing. And I just want to give you a little bit of joy and say thank you. And in a very, very unconventional way.
I love the thinking behind that. That's awesome. That's so much fun. So we do you need to take one more break? And when we come back, I want to talk with you kind of about the future. So that's pretty broad there. So we'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Hero Flooring was founded in 2014 with a clear focus on creating the ultimate client experience. Hero Flooring is a national brand of high-performance floor coverings, which includes carpet in broad lumen carpet tile formats, Hero rubber and Nike grind, tile, LVT, engineered wood, and turf.
Hey guys, welcome back. This has been so much fun. I hope you guys are getting this much out of this. Me and Chris, this is the first time we've met, and I think we're a little bit design geeking out here. So I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I'm enjoying it. Chris, where are things going? That's a way broad, but under the design thinking, under collaboration, under innovation, where are we going?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. First, I want to say, Joseph, I think I'm in love with you. This is like literally, I can imagine us sitting over a nice meal, a bottle of wine, just talking for hours on end. So again, thank you for having me on your show and this opportunity to chat with you, because it's been a blast. And as far as things are going, I think we have to keep the basics in mind. And the basics for me is that we're human centered in everything that we do, right? That's why we're on this earth. So for good and for bad, we have to be aware it's not all unicorns and rainbows. So what are the basics in design when it comes to being human centered? We like relationships. We like interactions through brand engagement, through our spaces reflecting a human-centered approach, right? And we're all trying to capture that. We're sort of in this nebulous area of work from home, go back to, March, go back to work. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think in the United States, most of Europe's 100% back to work, right? They're back in offices. Here, not so much. So what that leads me to believe is there's opportunity. There's going to be an incredible opportunity for change and disruption as a result of that. On how companies are going to continue to thrive and engage. How do you create culture, right? If I'm just working from home all the time and I don't get that interaction with you except for maybe through a screen, there is going to have to be breakthrough. So I would say nobody jump to conclusions, and everybody's trying to come up with the answer right now. And you know what I'm going to say to you? I'm going to say, why don't you just sit and observe for a good 12 months? Why don't you, start to form some ideas and see if this is in fact evolving. Is it 75-25 work from home or not? And we don't have to have the immediate answers. This one we should be very thoughtful about, because I do think we're in a time of profound change.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. Looking at humans like the familiar. So when COVID happened, right away, I was saying this isn't outside of the disease and the death that came with it. But the world was stopped. It wasn't one part of the world. The world stopped. And this was from a statistics standpoint, from a study standpoint, this was an amazing time. I call it the great disruptor. And it just caused everybody to have to stop. You weren't the only one stopping, everybody did. And so, unfortunately, I said that right away we were going to try to go back to the norm. We were right away for a time I managed a vending food market research firm, and so I love analytics. And in any test, you're going to introduce the test, you're going to introduce something new, and you're going to have a spike. Then you're going to have a drop, and then you're going to have this what becomes the new normal. And so we and different things, supply chain, finances, we're still in it. When COVID hit, I would say we were still in the rebound from 2008. We hadn't recovered really from that. Things take time, and in all kinds of different categories.
And new generations are entering the workforce with new unexplored needs or unarticulated needs that we hadn't realized what the impact of that was, right? Because every time a new generation enters into the workforce, there's going to be change, right? And so it was like the perfect collision of all of these things happening. You're absolutely right. And I think we're so quick to say, I have the answer, that I think it's going to take a little bit longer than the immediate to figure out what is the what.
And you said like kids and I would say young adults. So during the Great Depression, nobody knew what the fallout was going to be. People pulled money out of banks and hid it, and that became a generational change. Like the U.S. economics and global economics shifted because of that.
Sure.
I don't know that we are even talking about it, or if we're recognizing it enough that there are, between 2008 and 2020, this was huge. 2008, you had kids who there was no market for them, so they stayed in school. They came back out, and eventually they got good jobs because they were really educated. Along comes 2020, and the job market just chops their legs off again. On my startup side, on my tech side, I would say that this is the first time in U.S. economic history, and maybe global economic history, where those people they make good money. But they don't trust that the jobs are going to be there. They've seen the jobs just out of their control, lost. What you're seeing now is this whole new equity class of investor. These are a person who's working at Salesforce. They're making $180,000, $200,000 a year, and they've got extra money, but they don't know that their job's going to be there. And we're truly in a gig economy where people are working from home. They've also learned that they can do a couple of jobs because nobody's really watching their clock. So you've got crazy diversification. You've got wealth, but distrust. And so I don't think that we're giving humanity enough credit that we have actually hit a cultural shift. We don't know what that fully is yet, but that's gonna impact the way we live, the way we interact with each other, the way we spend our money. It's going to have an impact.
Well, I'm hoping that something that comes out of this is a renewed sense of entrepreneurship, right? And you do see it with the younger generation, not taking traditional paths, being TikTok famous. It's very valid. Some kids are making more than you and I put together and getting billions of views, right? So, because we didn't come from a generation where we might quote unquote understand that, we need to, because it's part of the world now. But what other entrepreneurial things will happen as a result of this cultural shift that you and I both seem to be very much in that agreement that we're living through something that we don't fully understand right now, and I think we need to, again, use one of your words, be more thoughtful about understanding what that cultural shift and its impact really encompasses.
And kind of
that's the future.
Yeah. And a nod back to Hero again is those collaborations and the outside of the box thinking, and we need more of that from more companies, but designers, as they find companies like Hero that I think it can rub off. And I think that we're going to need to think way outside the box. A lot of collaborations, a lot of things that you're like traditionally you wouldn't look at. Now I think we should. So. Chris, this has been a blast, and
thank you.
Through Hero, we definitely got to meet up or something.
Definitely. We need to cook together and have a great meal.
When he pulled up a cereal box of Hero samples, I was thinking we got to have like a cereal event, like some event with designers where like we go do some fun, like let's do some way out of the box fun thinking that's just like a hero thinking. So
right. I will start on that immediately. Thank you so much, Joseph. Man, I am so glad I got to meet you. This has been just absolutely wonderful. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Chris, how can people find out more?
Actually, through Hero Flooring. It is probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. I'm on all of the socials and on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, where I do something very unique on Facebook for the past 5 years. I under my name, it's the Happiness Project every morning at 7 a.m. people wait to see what I'm going to post, because it is truly that channel is just devoted to me putting something really messed up at 7 a.m. and just to start your day with a smile. So you might have to check it out if you're on that. But Chris Stulpin, LinkedIn, CD Stulpin on Instagram.
Very cool. Chris, this was a blast. And off air, I've got a little story for you. So, hey
Awesome.
guys, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been a blast. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Design Talk Live podcast. The Design Talk Live podcast is produced by the Live Broadcast Network, Joseph Haecker Inc., and Design Talk Live Studios. This episode was produced by Eric Miller. The theme song for our show is Cielo and is used under a Creative Commons license. Editing was done by Greg Stevens. Mixing and mastering by Melanie Kim. To be a guest on the show or to become a sponsor, please visit us at josephhaecker.com/DesignTalkLive. That's josephhaecker.com/DesignTalkLive. Until next time, say hi to someone new. You never know who you'll meet.
Look, Mom. I made that.